Okay, now I want to make the challenge harder. Can we control the color by text input? Let's try to do it. So I'm gonna add an input here. Input type text like that. And I want to type the color here, the yellow. And when I click change color, I want this yellow that I typed to be the new color for the first box. How can we do that? So this is about controlling a component, okay? You're gonna hear that term, controlled components. So the input by itself, we cannot have no control over the value here. Okay, how can I get, well, of course, in vanilla JavaScript, you can click that, and then the function here is gonna go here, document get element by ID, so you get this input, and then you see the value attribute. But because you gotta do the React way, it's a little different. Let's do React way. So first, we gotta control this input by adding the value attribute here to be some value that we're going to store in the state. So let me say text color, okay? Now we're going to create that. Remember, it's a weird, but it's always the same way. React.useState. Now you need to call this function, give it an initial value. Let's say the text is empty initially. So I'm going to use an empty string here for the initial value. Now this returns an array of two elements, right? The first being how can access the actual text, and the second with a function to change that. So we can use this structuring with this notation to extract the first element, the second, into any arbitrary name we want. I usually use a descriptive name, like text color, comma, always followed by the set, whatever the previous name I used. It's just a convention, but you can use whatever. By the way, if you don't know this casing, it's called camel case. The first word of the letter is lower, and then every subsequent word, the first letter has to be capitalized. So it's camel case, like a camel. Camel case, like this. Just a convention we use in JavaScript. Other languages might use underscore, like snake case, or Pascal in C Sharp. Uh, okay, now we got text color here. We can use that for the value of the input. But that's not really doing anything, right? We can type, actually we can't type. Why can't we type? Because we fixed the value on the text color, which is initially empty. So that's why when I type anything, nothing happens. Now, this is now a controlled component, so you have to manually write code so that whenever you type anything, it will change the value of the text color that's in the state. Now to do that, we can use onChange prop like this. And you can pass as the value a function. Okay, let's create a function there. Let's say on text color change. Now the name of the function is arbitrary. I just like following this convention on whatever name of the variable and then the event. Okay, it's up to you to change your own, use your own convention. Now I defined a function here on text color change, and then I'm gonna take that like that. Now, remember, I can type something here. Now, to access that, I need to access the event variable that's usually passed in as the parameter to any event handler function like this one. So when you have an input, you can access the whatever the user typed with the event object dot target dot value. Okay, that's just the way it is. So there's an event object inside. There's the target object, and then inside there's a value. That's whatever the user typed. Okay. Now, since we got access to whatever the user typed, we need to assign that to the new text color here. So we're going to say, remember, we have a set text color function. We can use that set text color and then pass in the new value, which is going to be that. Okay, now if I save that and try to type it, A, now I see the A, it's no longer just empty, right? Why does that happen? Because when I type the character, it calls the onChange this function, and it calls set text color with the A letter. So the value of text color now becomes A, okay? And then I can type, in every type and type of character, it calls this function and sets the value of text color, okay? Every time I type any character. Okay, now that's nice. We got that stored. Now it's finally time for us when we click change color, we want to change the color, background color of the first one. Remember the first box, line 32, is controlled by the box color. That's a variable that's in the state. Now, how can we change that? Well, set box color. That's already the code for the on change color click that is called when I click change color. But now it's hard coded to green. How can I change this to be whatever is typed in the input type text? Anybody have an idea? What should be typed there? So it should be text color, okay? Because that's what we hold. That's where we hold the value for whatever the user types. So instead of green, now we say text color. So let's see if it works. So I type blue and click change color. Now we can see it changed to blue. If I type green, click change color, now it's changed to green. Now we see the questions. Why do you use a state on property on change text if that is a variable? Can you use just a variable, not state? Yeah, so we cannot use just the variable because of React. Remember, it's reactive only to the state change. If I did something like the text, let me see, on change text, color like this, right? A variable, like just a plain variable with the text, and I were to change the thing, it doesn't change the state. So a state not changing means it never re-renders the thing. So let me see if I can demonstrate that here. So we have the text color variable. If I put it in the input types text here, the text color. So we're using the variable now. So if I save that, it's always blue. I cannot change anything. And if I go on set text color, here I will have to say the text color equals, right? Something like that. Then to do that, I got to move this up maybe. Uh, let me see. So you can see nothing happens even though we're calling, okay? Because React doesn't know that you changed. It didn't re-render anything. So the reason we have to always use state is so we let React know, hey, you have to react to this variable. Every time I change the value of this variable, you have to react to it and re-render everything so things are updated. If you don't use that, React doesn't know. It has no idea about this variable here, the text color. So I try to change it, nothing happens because it doesn't know. It won't change it. It won't re-render it. Okay? So let me revert everything back to the correct. That's it. Okay, so that's the React way. If you have anything you want to change, use a state so Ed knows about it and it will react and re-render accordingly. I hope that clarified a little bit. Data might update it, but component won't pre-render to reflect. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Anybody any questions? Is that okay?
Hi. Hi, Mark.
Hey.
I have a question. It's probably stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyways. For the sake of understanding everything that's typed here, I'm curious why it's in the order that it's in,
Mhm.
and why, for example, line 24 wouldn't be at the very top or almost at the very top, and then
Yeah.
for the other
Mhm.
pieces to sort of be underneath it.
Mhm.
I don't know if
Okay.
that makes any
If you
sense.
put if you put 24 at the top, by virtue of the language of JavaScript, it will return right away without executing 14 and 15. So it won't know about those things. So if I do that, you get an error. Cannot access text color because it doesn't know what it is. You're returning right away from the function, meaning everything after that return is ignored. So
Gotcha.
it gets out of the function early.
Got
So
it.
it's a
Got it.
matter of programming language and scope of the variables. As for the order of the functions, this one doesn't matter. I can have it like this or like that, okay? And the reason I have it within the app instead of outside is because I need to access these two variables, right? And there's no way I can access these because they're local to app. So that's not available outside. So I have to have them inside. And it's just the way they wrote it for this kind of way of doing React. Uh, in the in the beginning of React, they actually use classes. If you're familiar with object-oriented programming, they define the components using a class, and then you can instantiate objects of that class. Those are the components. But now they want to do it this way, defining all the components using a function and using hooks. And then you can define the functions within the functions. I know it's a bit messy if you're, I don't know, your experience, other languages. To me, it's kind of messy a little bit coming from another background of object oriented, but that's just the way it is now.